my name is Nicole Meyer, and I am here at the historic St. Louis Courthouse with the Fieldhouse Museum. Today we are here to talk with Doug Harding of the National Park Service about the Dred Scott case and other cases in the 1850s. We are currently in the circuit courtroom number 4, which is above the courtroom where the Dred Scott case would have been held in 1847 and 1850. And we're very excited to be here and to be partnering with the National Park Service for our November Museum School Days.
My name is Doug Harding. I'm a park ranger here at the Gateway Arch National Park. And today we're in the old courthouse, which is a part of our national park. This was originally the St. Louis County Courthouse, and there were 12 courtrooms in this building, and so a lot of court cases were being heard. One of the most famous court cases, of course, is the Dred Scott case. And Dred Scott filed his lawsuit in 1846, and the first trial was held here in this building in a room below us. But this courtroom is very similar in appearance to what that courtroom would look like. And so when you look around, you see the judge's bench. The judge can see everybody in the room. You have the lawyers' tables. Right in front of the judge, you have the clerk's desk, and the clerk is writing down everything that's said in the courtroom. Over here you have the jury. Right next to the judge, you have the witness stand, where the witness sits. Over on that side, you have the bailiff's desk. The bailiff is in charge of keeping order in the courtroom, and so he needs to be a place where he can keep an eye on everybody. But the bailiff is also in charge of the jury, and so he makes sure that nobody tries to interfere with the jury during the trial. And then in the far room, you have the audience. Because trials are public events. Anybody can come in and watch and listen as long as they don't disturb the trial going on. And so this courtroom is very similar to what the other courtrooms would have looked like in this building.
During freedom suits in the Dred Scott case, would there have been a jury?
We know that the 1847 and the 1850 trials did have a jury. The first trial they found against Dred Scott, and the jury basically said that the lawyers for Dred Scott did not prove that Dr. Emerson actually claimed to own Dred Scott at the time. And so Dred Scott's lawyers appealed the decision, saying they were not given the opportunity to present that evidence that would have proved that. And so the Missouri Supreme Court threw out that first trial, and they ordered it to be done all over again. So in 1850, they came back to this building, and they did it again, and there would have been another jury. And this time, the jury found for Dred Scott. However, the lawyers for Mrs. Emerson appealed that decision to the Missouri Supreme Court, who would reverse the decision and say, no, Dred Scott was still a slave. Then Roswell Field comes in, and he decides, we're going to take it to the federal courts because of the Missouri Compromise Law, which was a federal law. And so they went to the federal district court here in St. Louis. The federal district court upheld the Missouri Supreme Court's decision, but now they would appeal to the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., and the United States Supreme Court would hand down their decision in 1857. So the Missouri Supreme Court, the federal district court, and the United States Supreme Court would not have had juries. But the two trials that were held in this building would have had juries.
Would the Scotts have been in the courtroom during the proceedings?
Well, we don't know for sure whether they would have been in the courtroom or not. Some cases we do know from documentation that they would have been there, but this specific case we don't have any evidence that specifically tells us yes or no. The likelihood is they probably would have been.
And how would the case have proceeded? Would there have been a discussion in front of the jury? Would it just been paperwork submitted?
It was a little bit of both. In the 1850 trial, there were witnesses called. There were also depositions, sworn statements from other witnesses that were not present, but their statements were read into the record and used as evidence. And the lawyers would have argued in front of the jury their side of the case so that the jury could decide. So the first two trials that there were juries, that would have been happening. The other trials would have been more administrative. Since there wasn't a jury, it would be more in front of a judge. They would be presenting documents and things like that, as well as their arguments to the judge.
And how long would this have taken? Would this have been multiple days? Would there have been certain times set aside each day for each trial?
My understanding is that the first two trials were basically one-day things. When it went to the Missouri Supreme Court, it would have taken longer for the Supreme Court to make their decision. They would have sat in trial maybe for a day and listened to the arguments, and then they would have, the state's Supreme Court justices would have discussed it and come up with their decision later on. And of course, with the United States Supreme Court decision, that again, there were maybe a day in the trial where the lawyers would give their arguments, but then the Supreme Court justices would deliberate and make their decision, and that actually took a little bit longer.
Is there anything else that you would like to include, or?
Well, you know, we remember Dred Scott's case because it was the only one that went to the United States Supreme Court. Under our form of government, slavery was a state issue. The states decided for themselves whether they allowed for slavery or not. And so the laws were also state laws. So the federal government kind of tended to stay out of that unless they had to step in, like with Dred Scott's case going to the Supreme Court. The laws were very specific on who could and who could not be a slave. And therefore, it also provided for means for people illegally being held as slaves to get their freedom. We know of over 280 lawsuits here in St. Louis that were filed for slaves trying to get their freedom from 1804 until about 1860. And from the court records from this courthouse, more than half of them actually won their freedom. But because they stayed in the state level, we don't remember them. But we have gone through the records and we have found out their names. We found out the dates and stuff like that and how their cases went. And all those records are available online from our website here at the Gateway Arch. So if you go to mps.gov and look up Gateway Arch and go to our resources, you can actually get a link where all those documents are available for anybody to look at.
We would really like to thank Doug Harding and the National Park Service for allowing us into the old courthouse today to do some programming for our museum school days. The courthouse is currently closed and will remain closed tentatively for the next 2.5 years as it undergoes infrastructure and restoration. In the meantime, you can visit their website, nps.gov, and look for the Gateway Arch and the Old Historic Courthouse to find online programming that they offer, ranging from Zoom meetings with rangers to scripts on reenacting the Dred Scott court case. We will have links to all of these listed with our programming, and we're really excited to come in and take a look.